Psychotherapy works by having you communicate your emotions through some sort of speech, some sort of communication. So the idea is to take what you're feeling and transform it into some sort of speech, some sort of communication. What that does is take the emotions, which reside in a very primitive part of your brain, really in the interior of your brain, and force it through speech centers in the more highly evolved part of your brain, which is really where your executive functions are. It's really where you as a conscious person reside. The idea really is simply to make you conscious of what you're feeling, to make these very primitive forces a part of your less primitive self. These higher functions process these very primitive functions. Okay, that sounds complicated, but really it's kind of intuitive. The idea is to put your thoughts and feelings into words. However, it can be argued, and I think it's true, that it isn't just words that make up communication. There are other kinds of therapy, other types of modalities that do work very well. There's art therapy, there's dance therapy, there's music therapy, and also just writing, journaling. I encourage my clients to journal, to write letters to themselves, to write letters to people in their lives, which they may or may never send. There's no question that these are all ways of putting your feelings into communication, and in so doing, becoming more conscious of these emotions. Okay, so the question then becomes, why is it that I do talk therapy rather than other kinds of therapy? I guess part of it is simply that's the sort of therapy I do. Now, I certainly have a great deal of respect for people who do things like play therapy or music therapy, which can be particularly useful for people who struggle to communicate through words, who have very early feelings or very traumatic incidents happening to them, where it's really a struggle for them to communicate through words. I guess part of it is simply chance. I happen to work through talk therapy. I do sometimes work on the phone, and I work quite a bit on Skype. What I like about talk therapy is that I can gather a great deal of information from you. In addition to just the words, I can see your body language, I can hear the tone of your voice, and that information is critical. There's also a piece of it which I think is important, which is we in therapy and talk therapy aren't. It's not the sort of stereotypical thing where I'm just sitting and nodding a lot and going, and maybe occasionally saying, so how do you feel about that? It's actually a conversation. The way I work is an active conversation between the two of us. And the focus of that conversation, the topic of the conversation is you. So it's a conversation in which I'm asking questions, I'm reflecting what I'm hearing, I'm engaging with you, I might be putting together things and throwing something out there, making a guess or an observation about what I'm hearing. It's a conversation in which we're interacting. That's what we call the therapeutic join in therapy. It's an interaction of the two of us in a meaningful way. We're looking at one another, we're examining and listening to each other's tones of voices and so forth. And that connection is absolutely vital, I think. It's how we heal by sustaining a contact with one another. So I can't do that by trading emails. Now, I know that certainly there have been these wonderful letter writers throughout history. I think of Abigail and John Adams sending these beautiful letters back and forth. But I think if push came to shove, Abigail and John were separated because he was always in Europe on missions and things. I think if they really, or he was down in Washington D.C. or wherever it was, and she was stuck in Boston. If they could have, I think they probably would have rather been together. And I guess if I had my druthers, I would rather be, with you in my office, or at least seeing you on Skype and working that way. People have asked me, I get this quite a bit, why do I record these videos? Why don't I simply type out my responses to people's questions? And I guess the answer really is, once again, that I want you to see that I'm a person. I want to have that as much as I possibly can. I'd like to have that connection, that sense that you're there and I'm here and we're two people. It's that connection, sustaining that authentic contact with another human being, ultimately, that in the sort of therapy I do, in talk therapy, helps us to heal one another.